Started with a lie or maybe just a stupid joke typed past midnight. I never thought flirting with a digital avatar could set my entire life on fire. My name's Evan Rivers, a freelance illustrator who spends too much time in front of screens and not enough time with people. I live in a small studio apartment above a laundromat in Brooklyn, where the hum of washing machines has become the lullaby of my 20s. Most nights, I escape reality through an online game called Ethereal Realms. It's where I can be anyone bold, charming, confident, the opposite of the guy who forgets to eat breakfast and avoids eye contact in grocery lines. That night, I just logged into the game to unwind after a brutal client deadline. My in-game character, Nova, was wandering through the neon-lit cityscape when I ran into him, Lior, a mysterious player with a tailored black outfit, sharp features, and a way of typing that made everything sound like a secret. "You flirt like it's your job," he typed once. "Maybe it is," I replied without thinking. He sent a winking emoji. I laughed. And then, just like that, it started. We talked for hours, days, weeks. He wasn't like the usual players. He didn't brag, didn't push, didn't disappear mid-conversation. He remembered what I said. He asked about my art. He made me feel seen, even through pixels. Somewhere between playful banter and sleepless nights, I realized something terrifying. I was falling for someone who might not even exist. Then one evening, he asked, "What if I told you I wanted to meet you in real life?" I froze. My stomach twisted. This wasn't supposed to be serious, it was just a game. But curiosity overpowered fear, and I agreed to meet him at a cafe downtown. The moment I walked in, I knew I was in trouble. He was sitting by the window, tall, strikingly handsome, wearing a dark suit that looked too expensive for the place. His hair was slicked back just slightly, his jaw sharp, his gaze calm and focused like he was used to commanding rooms. And when his eyes met mine, he smiled. "Evan Rivers?" he asked, standing up. His voice was smooth, confident, the kind that could melt resistance or close million-dollar deals. Yeah," I stammered. "You're?" "Lior," he said simply. Then, with a small smirk, "Well, Leon, actually. Leon Avery." The name hit me like a headline. Leon Avery, the CEO of Avery Tech, one of the most influential tech companies in New York. I'd read about him in business magazines, seen interviews where he was called the young visionary of Silicon Alley. I blinked. "Wait, you're the CEO, Leon Avery?" He tilted his head, amused. "Last time I checked, yes. I wanted to disappear under the table. I'd flirted with him online like an idiot, making jokes, teasing, calling him my mysterious knight. And now that knight turned out to be a billionaire CEO who probably thought I was some desperate fanboy. But instead of laughing, Leon looked at me like he'd found something precious. "You're exactly like I imagined," he said quietly. That was the first time someone ever said that to me, exactly like I imagined. Over the next few weeks, Leon found excuses to see me. Lunch meetings that weren't really about business. Coffee runs that somehow lasted hours. Texts that came at midnight saying, "Are you still awake?" He was magnetic, confident but never arrogant, warm but guarded. Every time he looked at me, I felt both exposed and safe. And even though I tried to tell myself it was impossible, that someone like him would never truly want someone like me, he kept proving me wrong. One rainy night, after we'd stayed too long at a small jazz bar, he walked me home. The city was quiet, wet, shimmering with the reflection of streetlights. We stopped under the awning of my building, our shoulders brushing. "Evan," he said softly, "you know this isn't just a game to me anymore, right?" My chest tightened. "Leon, I mean it," he continued. "I've met hundreds of people, investors, partners, competitors, but you're the only one who talks to me like I'm human. You make me forget about the numbers, the pressure, the noise." He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel his breath. I didn't move away. Maybe I should have. Maybe I wanted to. But the truth was I'd never wanted anyone more. When his lips touched mine, it wasn't fireworks. It was quiet, real. The kind of kiss that felt like both a confession and a promise. For a moment, the world shrank to the space between us. No CEO, no poor artist, no screens. Just two men standing in the rain, terrified of what came next. But reality doesn't like fairy tales. News travels fast in New York, faster when you're rich, powerful, and caught kissing another man in public. The headlines came within days. Tech mogul Leon Avery spotted with mystery boyfriend. Avery tech stocks drop amid CEO's scandal. I stared at my phone, horrified. My social media flooded with messages, some supportive, most cruel. Gold digger. Freak. Enjoy your 15 minutes of fame. Leon tried to protect me. His team issued statements, denied rumors, spun stories about a misunderstanding. But the damage was done. I lost clients. My inbox filled with hate. My parents stopped calling. I told him I couldn't do it anymore. It's destroying you, I said one night in his apartment, surrounded by the cold glow of city lights. Your company, your reputation, you're losing everything because of me. He shook his head. I don't care about that. You should care, I snapped. You've worked your whole life for this. Don't you dare finish that sentence. His voice broke slightly. You're not just anything, Evan. I looked at him, really looked. Behind the confident CEO was a man who'd built walls so high he'd forgotten how to breathe without them. And somehow I'd become the crack in those walls. Tears burned my eyes. I can't let you lose everything for me. Then what do you want me to do? Pretend you don't exist. Maybe, I whispered. The silence that followed was unbearable. He took a step back, his face pale. If that's what you want, he said quietly, then I'll respect it. And just like that, he was gone. Weeks passed. I stopped logging into the game, stopped drawing, stopped believing that any of it, the love, the connection, the spark, had ever been real. Until one evening, a package arrived at my door. Inside was a single USB drive and a note in Leon's handwriting. For the man who made me believe in stories again. I hesitated, then plugged it in. The screen lit up with a familiar interface, Ethereal Realms. But this time, the title screen was different. A new message blinked at the bottom. Welcome back, Nova. My heart pounded. I clicked start. There, standing in the middle of a digital city bathed in sunset light, was Leon's avatar, Lior. He turned to me and typed, I built a world where no one can judge us. Meet me here one last time. The screen flickered softly, bathing my small apartment in digital light. For a long moment, I just stared at it, the neon skyline of Ethereal Realms, the city where it all began, where I'd first met him. I thought I'd deleted everything, uninstalled the game, buried it with the rest of my mistakes. But here it was again, glowing like a ghost that refused to fade. My hands trembled as I typed, You're really here? Leon turned his avatar toward mine. Even through the screen, his presence was unmistakable. That calm, steady way he looked at me, like he could see more than what I showed. I never left, he replied. You said you wanted to end this. I did, I typed back. For your sake. Then let me decide what's good for me, came his reply. I sat back, staring at those words. He had no idea how much I wanted to believe them. But belief was dangerous. Love was dangerous. I'd learned that the hard way. Still, something inside me, something stubborn, reckless, maybe even hopeful, made me move my character closer. The city lights shimmered between us, reflections rippling like waves. You can't build a world just to escape the real one, I typed. I didn't build it to escape, he said. I built it so I could tell you everything I couldn't say out there. And then the game changed. The skyline behind him faded into darkness. In its place, a small digital garden appeared, glowing trees, soft lanterns, pixelated petals drifting through the air. It was beautiful in the strangest, simplest way. Do you remember the first night we talked? He asked. Of course, I replied. You called me trouble. You were trouble, he wrote. The kind that made me want to stay up until 3 a.m. just to see what you'd say next. A lump formed in my throat. Leon. Evan. His next message came quickly, almost desperate. They think I'm hiding. My board, the investors, everyone. They're watching, waiting for me to make the smart move. And what's that? To deny everything. Pretend you were just a rumor. Go back to playing the perfect CEO. That's what they expect. Yes, he said. But that's not who I want to be anymore. I froze. He continued typing, his words flashing like heartbeats. I'm tired, Evan. Tired of the masks. Tired of pretending that being successful means being soulless. You're the first person who saw me, not the CEO, not the billionaire, just me. You don't owe me anything, I replied. I was just someone who stumbled into your life. You're wrong, Leon. You're the one thing in my life that felt real. The message blinked, and then another line appeared beneath it. I'm done hiding. I didn't understand what he meant not until the next morning. My phone exploded with notifications. My heart sank even before I saw the first headline. Leon Avery comes out in live broadcast. I'm in love with a man, and I'm not ashamed. I dropped the phone. My stomach turned. I scrambled to open the video. There he was standing on a stage at an Avery Tech press conference, under a sea of flashing cameras. Calm, confident, every inch the man I'd fallen for. I've been told for years, Leon said into the mic, that love is a liability, that people like me, people in power, can't afford to be human. But love isn't a weakness. It's what makes us worth following. The room was silent. Cameras clicked. Reporters murmured. I'm not ashamed, he continued. And if that costs me everything, then at least I'll lose it knowing I was finally honest. Someone shouted from the crowd. Who is he? Leon smiled just barely. He's someone who taught me that happiness isn't something you can buy or schedule or brand. It's something you fight for. I turned off the video, tears blurring my vision. He did it. He actually did it. My heart pounded with pride and fear and something deeper, rawer. I knew what this meant: the backlash, the investors, the whispers. The world didn't forgive easily, but he'd chosen to face it head on. For me. And suddenly, I realized I couldn't keep running. That evening, I took the subway to his office tower. The kind of place that made people straighten their backs and lower their voices. The receptionist froze when I walked in, probably recognizing me from the tabloids. I'm here to see Mr. Avery, I said. Her eyes flickered nervously. Do you have an appointment? No, I said, smiling faintly. But I think he'll want to see me anyway. Security tried to stop me at the elevator. But then a familiar voice echoed through the lobby. It's fine. Let him up. Leon stood at the mezzanine, hands in his pockets, suit jacket open. He looked tired but alive. When the elevator doors opened on the top floor, the world outside was nothing but glass and city lights. He was waiting by the window, his reflection tangled with the skyline behind him. You saw it, he said quietly. I did. And I didn't answer. I just walked toward him until the air between us felt electric again. You're insane, I whispered. Probably. You just risked everything. I know. For me. He smiled, that same gentle, infuriating smile that ruined me from day one. For us. Something inside me broke open. I wanted to yell at him for being reckless, for turning our private world into a headline. But instead, I just stepped forward and kissed him hard, desperate, grateful. It wasn't gentle this time. It was the kind of kiss that says we survived, that says I'm terrified but I'm here anyway. When we finally pulled apart, he pressed his forehead to mine. I thought I lost you, he murmured. You almost did, I said. But then you did something stupid and brave. I figured you'd like that. I laughed. A sound I hadn't heard from myself in weeks. You don't know how much. The weeks that followed were chaos and strangely beautiful. The media storm raged. Investors threatened to pull out. And for a while, Avery Tech's future looked uncertain. But something remarkable happened. People started to rally behind him. Employees, fans, even other companies began speaking out in support. Turns out, honesty, real, raw honesty, is contagious. Leon became a symbol for something he never intended: courage, authenticity, change. And through it all, he kept me close, not as a secret, not as a rumor, but as someone who mattered. We tried to keep things simple: small dinners at home, walks through Central Park when no one was watching, quiet moments that reminded me why we'd started all this in the first place. One night, as we sat on his rooftop with the city spread beneath us, I asked, "Do you ever regret it?" He turned to me, eyebrow raised. "Regret what?" "Choosing me. Choosing this." He smiled, shaking his head. "Evan, I've spent half my life chasing numbers and approval. For once, I wanted to chase something real. Something that scared me. And you." He reached out, brushing his thumb along my jaw. "You scare me in all the right ways." I swallowed hard. "You say that like it's a compliment." "It is." We sat there for a long time, saying nothing, just watching the city pulse with life. Then he whispered, almost to himself, "You know what the funny part is?" "What?" "I met you because of a bug in the game's code." I blinked. "What?" He chuckled. "The system glitched one night, merged random players into the same private server. You weren't supposed to be there, but you were." I stared at him, speechless. "So, technically," he said, leaning closer, "our entire story started because of an accident." I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. Then maybe the universe just glitched in our favor. But life wasn't suddenly perfect. There were still whispers, online hate, occasional stares when we walked into restaurants. Some days, Leon looked exhausted. The weight of being the face of change was heavy, and not everyone wanted him to carry it. One morning, I found him sitting alone in his office, the city fog curling around the windows. "You can't fight everyone," I said gently, setting a cup of coffee beside him. He looked up, eyes tired but soft. "I don't want to fight. I just want to live." "Then live," I said. "With me. Not for me, not for them. Just with me." He exhaled slowly, then reached across the desk and took my hand. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," I admitted. "But nothing worth it ever is." The months turned into a year. Avery Tech stabilized, stronger than ever. The narrative shifted from scandal to revolution. Leon became a quiet advocate for inclusivity in corporate America, though he never used our story for attention. And me? I started drawing again. Real things this time, messy, beautiful, human things. Love that didn't fit neatly inside frames. I even turned our story into an illustrated series online, under the pseudonym Nova. It went viral. People said it gave them hope. One evening, I came home to find Leon standing in the kitchen, wearing an apron that absolutely didn't fit his billionaire aesthetic, burning something that might have once been pasta. "Don't say a word," he warned. "I wasn't going to," I lied. He turned, holding up a half-charred wooden spoon. "Dinner's almost ready." "Kind of." I laughed until my stomach hurt. "You're impossible." He smiled. "And yet you're still here. I guess I'm glitched too." He walked over, pulled me close, and kissed me softly, the kind of kiss that said home. Maybe love isn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. Maybe it's about surviving the chaos, the judgment, the fear, and still choosing each other anyway. Once upon a time, I flirted with a stranger in a game just for fun. Now, I wake up next to the same man every morning, and the line between fantasy and reality has never been clearer. He still calls me trouble. I still call him my mysterious knight. And somewhere, in the quiet spaces between the world's noise, we built something real, something worth every risk. The following spring arrived quietly, almost shyly, as if afraid to disturb the fragile peace we'd built. The cherry blossoms along the East River had started to bloom again, their petals drifting through the breeze like pieces of a dream that refused to end. Leon and I had fallen into a rhythm, a life that felt both ordinary and extraordinary. Some mornings, I'd wake up before him, sketching by the window while the city yawned awake below us. He'd stumble into the kitchen half asleep, hair messy, tie crooked, looking nothing like the polished CEO the world worshipped. And somehow I loved him even more like that. He still teased me about how we met. "You know," he said one morning, sipping coffee, "I used to think love stories like ours only existed in bad rom-coms." "Correction," I said, smirking. "We are a bad rom-com." He laughed, the sound echoing through the apartment, warm, free, alive. But beneath all that laughter, There was something deeper, something quietly sacred. The kind of love that doesn't shout or demand. It just stays. A few weeks later, Leon asked me to come to a company event, an annual Avery Tech Innovation Gala. Normally, I avoided those like the plague, but this time he looked at me in that soft, hopeful way that made it impossible to say no. When we arrived, the ballroom shimmered with silver and light. People in tailored suits and sequin dresses moved like pieces on a chessboard, strategic, polished, controlled. I felt out of place instantly. "Relax," Leon whispered, leaning close. "You belong here." I chuckled nervously. "That's easy for you to say. You built this place." He smiled. "Then maybe I built it for you to walk into." Before I could respond, someone called his name, an investor, a politician, a blur of handshakes and champagne. Leon moved through the crowd effortlessly, the perfect mix of charm and composure. Watching him, I realized how much strength it took to be himself in front of these people, to be open, visible, unapologetically real. At one point, a journalist approached me. "You're Evan Rivers, right?" she asked with a polite smile. "The one from the story?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Do you mind if I ask what's it like, dating someone so public?" For a moment, I didn't know what to say. But then I looked across the room, saw Leon laughing with his employees, his face lit by the golden glow of chandeliers, and the answer came easily. "It's like learning to breathe again," I said. "Scary, but worth every second." Later that night, when the crowd had thinned and the music softened into something slow and intimate, Leon took my hand and led me onto the dance floor. "I warned you I don't dance," I muttered. He smiled. "Then let me lead." His hand settled on my waist, steady and sure. The room faded, no noise, no stares, no cameras. Just us. "You know," he murmured, "I used to think success meant never needing anyone. And now I know it means finding someone you can need and not being afraid of it." I looked up at him, my chest tightening. "You're going to make me cry in front of all these people." He grinned. "Then let them see." So I did. I let the tears fall. Because for once, they weren't from fear or shame, they were from something purer. Relief, love, truth. When the song ended, applause filled the room. I didn't even realize people had been watching. Leon just squeezed my hand, eyes shining. "You're my favorite headline," he whispered. A few days later, we took a road trip, no destination, no schedule, just two people escaping the noise. We ended up in a small coastal town in Maine, renting a weathered little cabin that smelled like salt and pine. It rained the first night, soft and steady. We sat by the window, wrapped in blankets, sharing stories we'd never told anyone else about childhood fears, heartbreaks, dreams we were too afraid to name out loud. "I used to think I'd never be brave enough to fall in love," I admitted. Leon glanced at me, smiling. "And now I think love made me brave." He leaned over, kissed my temple, and whispered, "You made me brave." Outside, the ocean roared like it was trying to join the conversation. Inside, the silence was perfect. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of waves. Leon was standing outside, barefoot in the sand, wearing one of my old hoodies. The wind tugged at his hair, the early sunlight painting him in gold. For a moment, I just watched him, the man who'd walked through storms and scandals, who'd torn down walls built by fear and expectation, who'd chosen me when the world told him not to. I stepped outside, wrapping my arms around him from behind. "Cold," I murmured. "Only until you showed up," he said, turning his head to kiss me. We stood there for a long time, the ocean stretching endlessly before us. "Do you ever wonder," I asked softly, "how things might have gone if we never met in that game?" He laughed. "Then I'd probably still be miserable and my company's VR division would be a mess." I smiled. "Guess the bug saved us both." He turned, eyes full of something deeper than amusement. "No," he said quietly. "You saved me." That afternoon, while he napped on the couch, I pulled out my sketchbook. I started drawing the two of us, not as the CEO and the artist, not as headlines or rumors, but as two men standing in the rain under the same umbrella, smiling at each other like the world had finally stopped spinning too fast. When he woke, he found the drawing on the table. I'd written a single caption beneath it. We were never a glitch. We were the update the world needed. He stared at it for a long time before pulling me close. You're never allowed to downplay yourself again, he whispered against my hair. Not after this. I smiled, resting my head on his shoulder. Deal. As night fell, we stood outside, watching the stars shimmer above the dark horizon. I used to think love was something that happened to you, I said. Now I think it's something you choose over and over. Leon nodded. Then let's keep choosing it. The wind carried the sound of the waves, the world stretching wide and infinite before us. For the first time in a long time, I felt weightless not because life was perfect, but because it was ours. Somewhere behind us, the cabin lights flickered softly, warm and inviting. The kind of light that said, you made it home. And maybe that's what love really is, not an escape from reality, but the place where reality finally feels bearable. He slipped his hand into mine. Ready? He asked. For what? For whatever comes next. I smiled. Always. We stood there until the stars blurred into dawn, two imperfect men in a world that wasn't built for them, holding on anyway. And in that moment, under that sky, I knew one simple truth. I hadn't just fallen in love with a man. I'd fallen in love with a life I never thought I deserved. And this time, I wasn't letting go. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.